Hello there, James Alexander Allen here again. So, The Last Jedi has been out about a week, and I said I'd do a little video of my thoughts on it, and so that's what I'm going to do now. Big spoilers coming. I'm pretty much going to spoil everything in the movie, so if you haven't seen it, don't watch this yet, go see it and then come back later if you so wish, or completely ignore it, up to you. Okay, so here we go. First thing that I would have to say is going back to my suggestions for episode 8 at the end of my Force Awakens video back in 2015, 2 years ago. I was really not far off. It's quite uncanny. Like, I said Kylo and Rey had to have a creepy stalker relationship. Check. Kylo kills Snoke and becomes the big bad and asks Rey to join him. Check. Luke warns Rey not to go after Kylo and ends up having to come save the day. Kind of. Luke joins the Force at the end. Check. I'm pretty happy with myself. That's gone pretty well. This has been a divisive movie. Like, the critics all love it, but the fans are split right down the middle. It's not really happened to this extent before. And there's the thing that, why do the critics love it and half the fans hate it? I think there's a pretty simple reason. I think the critics are actually reviewing the movie. I think the fans are very much holding this up against the movie that they wanted to see. And yeah, after my first viewing, I was guilty of that as well. I went out to the cinema sort of thinking, oh, okay. Thing is, I'm glad about that. I'm glad it's pissing people off. I'm glad it's dividing. I'm glad it's raising questions. I'd rather a Star Wars movie did this than patronise us by giving us what they think we want. It's clear that this hasn't been some studio execs going, well, the chart says that people might like an explosion here, and then a new kind of planet that's a bit like the Mos Eisley bed here. This is clearly Rian Johnson's just gone, I'm going to do this. We're going to do this. Let's put it out there. And they've all gone, yeah, great, we love it. I've always liked Rian Johnson's. When I did film studies back in A-level, and we studied Brick, one of his first movies, which is a very odd movie. His movies are odd. And he directed that Breaking Bad episode with the fly. It's just really weird. He also directed the one where everything went to hell in Ozymandias. So when I heard he was directing episode 8, I sort of thought, I'm interested to see that. If I wasn't a Star Wars fan, I would be intrigued to see what he does with this. Visually, this film is beautiful. There's a lot of very brilliant little visual touches to it, like the bit when Leia gets sucked out into space and you see the ice crystals start to sort of form and then are sort of blown away and sort of hover above her skin like there is a force bubble underneath it. Also the fact that a friend of mine pointed this out actually in the cinema, that we actually see shields in this movie. It's like in most sci-fi there's a thing where laser hits the chip and they go like, shield's holding. In this one you actually see the laser bullets stop about an inch or so away from the hull. And I thought, that's a nice touch. I like seeing that. Also, one I really want to point out, just from a filmmaking, from a visual and a writing standpoint, is on Crate, the salt planet at the end, the soldier next to Gareth Edwards sort of makes a smudge in the salt and leaves the little red mark, and tastes it, goes, salt. And it seems like a little sort of funny kind of observation at the time. But it sets up, the beautiful contrail effects that the ski speeders make as they weave in and out along the ground. And also, it sets up during Luke's duel with Kylo Ren, when Kylo's feet makes the red footprints in the salt, and Luke's doesn't, which is the first clue that all is not as it seems with Luke. So that's a thing of a visual detail setting up a visual gag of the set piece and setting off a story payoff a few minutes later. It's good filmmaking. It really is. From a story perspective, I'm very pleased that Disney have given Rian Johnson as much freedom as they have, and it really shows. This is clearly a very personal, and it's meant to be a challenging movie. He's not gone out to stir things up, I don't think, but he's gone out to make a sort of a stand, make a movie that says something. That being said, I respect the 180s because they're thoughtful, they're character-based, they're not sort of designed to shock, they're not sort of, oh my god, wouldn't it be cool if... Like, for instance, the bit in the opening when we finally see what happens when Luke takes the old lightsaber back and he just flips it over his shoulder and walks off. I burst out laughing at that. And it's absolutely right. Why? Because why would he want that saber at that point? It's not like it has brilliant memories for him. Like, he wasn't going to go, oh, thank you. This reminds me of the day I got my hand off and found out my dad was a mass murderer. Oh, I really appreciate that. I'm going to come and join you, person I've never met before, and fight with you. Like, that pitch was never going to work, realistically. And I kind of look back and think, yeah, I don't see that scene playing out any other way now. But what really strikes me about this film's script is its themes. Thematically, this is the strongest Star Wars script to date, I think. Because with Empire, while Empire is a great movie, it is effectively two parallel stories that only really join up at the end. It's obviously, you've got the survival guerrilla warfare thing with Han and Leia and the Falcon, and Luke's hero's journey Jedi training, and they only really come together again at the end. But with The Last Jedi, there is one solid, consistent theme that runs through the entire story, and that is the role of heroes. Every single main character's arc and journey in this film is defined and driven by that theme. Luke starts out thinking that being held as a hero got to his head and caused him to fail Ben Solo and the New Jedi Order. He learns through Rey that inspiring others is actually the greatest thing a hero can do, and that the Legends aspect of it is really the most important part. Finn is now thought of as a hero by Rose and has to learn how to live up to that image in her mind. Not by being the best fighter, but by being a better person. Poe has to learn to stop trying to be a hero and instead be the officer and leader that the Resistance actually needs. On the flip side, Kylo Ren abandons his hero, Darth Vader, just as he abandoned his previous hero, Luke. But he becomes even more nihilistic and sociopathic without another ideal to aspire to. And finally, Rey learns that being a hero is a matter of personal choice and behaviour rather than birthright. Honestly, I'm relieved by the Rey reveal. I was dreading there to be this shock reveal that she was Han and Leia's secret daughter, despite none of them reacting to her or seeming to recognise her in any way. Or that she was Obi-Wan's love child when Obi-Wan is clearly celibate, and that was a big part of his character in the films. Or that she was a secret relative of Palpatine, which would have forced me to imagine Palpatine procreating. I personally wouldn't have minded if her parents had turned out to be two Jedi from Luke's order or something, but I honestly think the fact that she came from a broken family and the Force chose her because of her spirit, because she had the heart of a Jedi and she acted the way a Jedi should already, is a much better message. It's a good message to send to kids, I think. Also, this reveal, it is a logical progression of her character from The Force Awakens. All the way through Force Awakens, you had Finn, and then Han, and then Maz trying to convince Rey to give up on the idea that if she went back to Jakku and waited, her family would come back. And the fact that it's Kylo who finally convinces her to move past this in this film, even though he does it for selfish reasons, it adds a nice little bit of depth to their relationship, I think. Now, I get why people are cross about Snoke turning out to be a red herring, but I said back in Force Awakens, I didn't think he was ultimately a necessary character, and it seems that Rian Johnson agrees with me on that. Kylo is letting the past die. He's shelving off the people that he looks up to. I think it was the right thing to do. I would have liked one scene for Snoke that was a bit like the Opera House scene in Revenge of the Sith. Just because that really gave... It didn't give Darth Sidious backstory, but it gave you just enough of an idea of who he was and where he came into this from. Just a little line or two, just to give us an idea of, maybe he waited around in the shadows while the Empire was in dominance. Maybe he was one of Palpatine's sort of priests or something. Just a little one-off line, just to let them know a little something more about this guy if they were going to axe him off. But I'm glad they did what they did, ultimately. I would say there are two issues I have with this movie. One is Admiral Holdo refusing to tell Poe her plan. Now, granted, Poe is extremely hot-headed, and yeah, he commits mutiny, ultimately. And that she did kind of say the line about, "You're a little bit dangerous. I don't know if I can trust you with a plan, because if you don't like it, you just go and disobey it." But at the end, when he finds out what the plan was, he kind of accepts it. He doesn't go, "No, that I want to go and fight." That kind of... That breakdown in communication left them so much more screwed than they would have been otherwise. My second issue, and I mean, I know this is a major one that a lot of people had, is Luke almost killing Ben. In one sense, I'm relieved that they didn't make this a complete retread of Revenge of the Sith. That we actually saw that it was effectively a big misunderstanding that led to the Jedi being wiped out. Also, I love the detail about Ben took half the students and killed the other half. So that's the Knights of Ren. I'm assuming that's Knights of Ren. But it's kind of the idea that Luke brought the Jedi back and he brought the dark side back at the same time. There's a very yin-yang sort of side to it. But I would have liked a lot more insight into why Luke contemplated execution over redemption. Just because killing someone in their sleep is very not the Jedi way. What I would have liked to happen in that scene is he reaches into Ben's mind to see what's happened and sees that Snoke has been telepathically communicating with him and turning him. And then Snoke appears before Luke and is like, "The child is mine now." And Luke draws his lightsaber on Snoke. And then Snoke vanishes just as Ben wakes up, sees him with the lightsaber out, and the rest is history. Because that also would have explained a little more about how Snoke corrupted Ben, and also it kind of set up the thing of it was Snoke that forged the connection between Rey and Kylo later in the film. Now, my last thing is not really a thing, is that I would have liked to see Luke in a proper badass lightsaber battle with everyone. I mean, they gave him a pretty good sword fight with Rey, just with the sticks. And obviously the final duel, I do like the fact the final duel was pure footwork and all that kind of thing. But while I would have liked to see a good epic lightsaber battle, I don't think it would have been right for this movie, on reflection, because he would have to have been killed in the battle if he did actually show up. And I think Luke getting killed by Kylo properly would have left quite a sour taste in the mouth for me, because it's like he's already killed off one beloved character. If he killed off another, it would... And also, it would have just been a complete retread of Obi-Wan. They at least did this a little bit differently. There was... The reveal that Luke wasn't actually there was such a triumph, because he didn't give Kylo the satisfaction or the black mark on his soul of murdering him in cold blood. It was actually a very kind of Jedi way to solve the situation, and a clever way that has not been done before. But it doesn't feel so left field that it's not something Luke could do. I think that power was actually in one of the old Jedi Knight games on the PC years ago, so it's not totally without precedent. With regard to Luke's sort of death at the end, I don't really see it as a death, because Rey said that there was no pain, there was only peace and purpose. So I don't think the effort killed him. I think he made a conscious choice to ascend to the higher plane because he thought, I'll be of more use like this. I can appear anywhere, I can guide Rey from any place in the galaxy, and I'll still be immensely powerful, as Yoda showed earlier in the film. That being said, I would have been perfectly happy with an end where Luke gets off his rock and walks down to the cliff and just effortlessly lifts his X-Wing out of the swamp, and the film just ends, and I'm like, I'm coming back now, because he just does so easily what he couldn't do in Empire. But that would have left J.J. Abrams with huge pressure for Episode 9, and I don't think anything Luke could do would be badass enough to live up to the expectation that would build. And I actually think there is something quite beautiful about this ending, that it ties off the theme of heroes with the idea that the random kid that they just inspired in the middle of a mission is going to be a Jedi someday. I was legitimately moved by that. And it really kind of sums up the film's theme that heroes are most useful not when doing awesome things in battle, but when just inspiring everyday people to be better than themselves. So yeah, those are my thoughts on The Last Jedi. I really don't follow the hate. I think this is a legitimately good movie with a strong message, a strong theme running through every single subplot, and I'm glad it was controversial. I'm glad that it was a movie that said something, that had some thought behind it. So on the whole, yeah, I'm very happy with it. So, have a very Merry Christmas, enjoy the new year, and may the Force be with you, always.